Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to talk about why there will never be a Black Legion Codex. Now, you might think to yourself, what the hell is this random topic? Where has this come from? Actually, this has come from one of Valrak's videos. See, the Rumour Engine picture, the last one that we had for this week, is a part of the Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer backpack, or hopefully an updated version of it anyway, which is awesome. It's great. If we have a plastic Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer, an actual non-ancient thing, that's really cool. I like that. I'm happy about it. I watched Valrak's video on it because it had some length to it, and I thought, that's phrasing again, I'm getting worse at that. And I thought maybe he has a bit of information that I don't have. Like, that's what it was. Is there anything extra that I don't know? Someone picked up on something that I haven't seen? What is the deal? So I watched it. Mind you, I tend to watch most of the videos anyway, so there's nothing new about that. But on this occasion, it happens rarely, but it happened this time, he made a comment that I feel needs direct response, in a way. Mostly because I don't like the idea of people getting their hopes up for something that is just not going to happen. So he was talking about the new Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer, and how it could kind of link up to the release of a new Abaddon model, and how the Chaos Space Marine models need updating quite badly, which, I wholeheartedly agree with. I've bitched about those models being old and crap I don't know how many times on this channel, but the tie-in was that if Abaddon and this Sorcerer and Chaos Space Marines got updated, we'd see a new Chaos Codex, and it would be a Black Legion Codex. He thinks it would be a Black Legion Codex. I have to completely disagree with that, because there is absolutely no chance, there's no way that we would get a Black Legion Codex for many, many reasons. And I don't like the idea of someone sitting there going, oh, if we did get Abaddon, we would get a new Black Legion Codex. You're not going to get that. You're absolutely not going to get that. There is almost no chance of that, in my opinion. I would go so far as to say that if there was a list of things that are likely to happen in 40k, the Black Legion just randomly getting their own codex is all the way down the bottom, below Kroot getting their own codex. That's how far down that is on my list, I'll be honest with you. So there's a few reasons for this. One of the things that was mentioned in, that Valrak said, is that the events of the Gathering Storm, the events that have, the Dark Imperium stuff, the launch of 8th, all of the big changes to the 40k universe, the Black Legion has had a direct hand in a load of that. Abaddon has had a direct hand in that. It's a Black Crusade. The clue's in the name. And yet they've received very little recognition. They haven't really got anything new, which is entirely accurate. The fact that they haven't got anything new during one of the most impactful times they've had is crap. We got a load of Death Guard, and that's great, but you cannot launch a Black Crusade, update Space Marines with an entire new type of Space Marine, and then have the man himself, the War Master, get fuck all. I don't like that at all, and I've never liked that, and I've complained about it I don't know how many times. Now, part of the reason that he gave for Black Legion getting their own codex is if we had a new Abaddon model, and we had new Chaos Space Marines, and we had a new Sorcerer, and thinking about it as well, there have been the rumours about new Obliterators as well. Black Legion have not had the attention they deserve. It would make sense for there to be a Black Legion Codex. That falls apart in multiple different ways for me. So, firstly, you wouldn't say that Ultramarines are going to get their own Codex, I don't think. I don't think anyone would ever assume that Ultramarines would get their own Codex. And the idea that Black Legion would get a Codex because they're getting their leader, their leader is getting a new model. We've already got Guilliman, but we don't have an Ultramarines Codex. Guilliman was instrumental in keeping the Imperium together, in relieving God knows how many planets. He did a vast amount for the Imperium. He was brought back in model form. He's the only living Primarch currently, but Ultramarines don't have their own codex, so why would Black Legion get a codex because Abaddon's come back? Why would Black Legion get their own codex because they had a single new model? There's no parity there, and I'm pretty sure one of the things that like Games Workshop is aiming towards with the way they're doing the Chaos stuff is parity. If you look at it, you have Chaos, you have Space Marines, you have that codex. You've also got Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves. Death Watch is closer to being standard Space Marine fare than the Grey Knights are, but I would count both of those as being variations of Space Marines, essentially. So I don't think I'm missing anyone out. So that is 6 different codexes to deal with the various flavours of Space Marine. Realistically speaking, you don't necessarily need the extra codexes for Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Space Wolves. Yes, they do have unit variations. Yes, they do have different weapons. You could probably fit those in a larger Space Marine book, but those have never been absorbed into that book. They've never been shifted over, and I think they are so well established that it would probably be a bad idea to do so. There also is enough in the way of operational difference to warrant them being their own separate thing. Space Wolves do not follow the standard for how Space Marine chapters operate. Dark Angels are the same, Blood Angels are pretty much the same as well, and Grey Knights and Death Watch are so far off in terms of doing their own thing that really I think I'm kind of being charitable in lumping them together with the Space Marine codexes as a whole anyway. There is not enough of an operational or flavourful difference between Ultramarines and Imperial Fist and Iron Hands and White Scars to give them their own codexes. There's just no point. They are similar enough in what they do, and they are similar enough in the equipment they use, that to split them all up would be kind of a bit of a waste of time. You wouldn't actually gain anything from it. You might get a bit more lore, but realistically speaking, there is such a wealth of lore for all of the established chapters, well, most of the established chapters at this point, that I don't think you really get anything new or different out of it. It would simply mean that you didn't have access to all of the rules in a single book. There is enough crossover between the chapters in the main Space Marine Codex that separate codexes is kind of pointless. And in a way, having said Ultramarines haven't got their own codex, they sort of have. Because last time I checked, on the front of the Space Marine Codex, there's an Ultramarine. And there has been an Ultramarine for I don't know how long. Like, I literally don't know how long. Quite a long time at this point. It's the same for the Black Legion. There is not enough really of an operational difference between Black Legion, Word Bearers, and Night Lords. And this, you get where I'm going with this, right? There's variations on a theme, but Black Legion is the main part of the theme. Same for Space Marines. Variations on a theme, but Ultramarines are the main part of that theme. Now, there are, of course, arguments to be made as to why that's crap and why you don't like it, but that's not the point of the video. We could quite easily go into the fact that Ultramarines are presented as the standard and the default, and they shouldn't be, because they are. But then again, that same argument can actually be made for the Black Legion themselves. Ultramarines are the standard. They are the default for the Space Marines. When you see pictures of Space Marines, they are largely Ultramarines. They are the poster boys for that faction. That is how it's been for a hell of a long time, for as long as I can remember. Guess what position the Black Legion hold for Chaos Space Marines? It's exactly the same. They are the standard. They are the default. They are the route from which all of the others spread out. Again, you can argue whether that should be the case or not as much as you like, but it is, and that's kind of the point. We wouldn't see a Black Legion Codex because we'd never see an Ultramarines Codex. Now, the argument could be made, okay, well, what about Death Guard and Thousand Suns? Those previously had no real difference. They have had differences, like, kind of forced upon them. Yeah, there is actually an argument to be made that if those guys will get their own codexes, then maybe the Black Legion could. But that ignores a fairly key factor in terms of why those legions were selected to get the treatment that they were given. They were selected because they are the chosen legions of gods. The Black Legion is not the chosen legion of any one god. They are a undivided legion. That's kind of the point. That is one of the big things about Abaddon, is he is not seeking the favour of one particular god. He is powered by chaos undivided. You could then say, okay, well, what about a chaos undivided codex? Well, we've already got that because that is the Chaos Space Marines Codex. Because out of, the various Chaos Space Marine legions, only 4 of them are dedicated to gods. We have the Emperor's Children for Slaanesh, we have the World Eaters for Khorne, we have the Death Guard for Nurgle, and we have the 1,000 Suns for Tzeentch. Now, of course, we've already got Death Guard and 1,000 Suns, so that's Nurgle and Tzeentch taken care of. Half the Pantheon now have codexes of their own with regards to Chaos Space Marines. We're missing World Eaters, we're missing Emperor's Children, so we're missing Khorne and Slaanesh, but we keep hearing rumours about how we're going to see Khorne and Slaanesh codexes for Chaos Space Marines. So that would then mean that the Chaos Space Marine Codex as a whole is formatted in a similar way to those separate codexes, in that this is for Nurgle, this is Tzeentch, this is Slaanesh, this is Khorne, and this is Undivided. And guess who is going to be on the cover of the book for Chaos Undivided? That would be Black Legion, because it's always been Black Legion, because they are the standard, they are the default, they do not differ enough from the other legions to warrant their own codex. There's also the fact that Games Workshop have said themselves they're trying to minimise bloat. They're trying to make it so that you don't need 18 bajillion supplements to carry to tournaments and so on and so forth. If you release a codex for Black Legion, well, why not release one for Night Lords? Why not release one for Word Bearers? Why not release one? I did think for a while we'd see a Word Bearers Codex, but honestly, I don't think we will, because we don't need one. At the moment, it's being separated into how do these chapters organise themselves for Space Marines, and how do these legions organise themselves for Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines, in a way, it's a little bit different. You have got the warband situation going on, but if anything, that just makes it easier to keep things in particular boxes. Space Wolves, Dark Angels, Blood Angels, they don't really organise themselves the same way that most Space Marine chapters do. Same for Death Watch and Grey Knights. And they all have their own codexes. The rest of the Space Marine chapters organise themselves in roughly similar ways. Not exactly the same, obviously, but enough that there is not a discernible enough difference to actually make them separate. And you've got exactly the same situation with Chaos Space Marines. Games Workshop, if anything, are just bringing Chaos closer to Space Marines in the way that they differ slightly. So you have got now, you've got Death Guard, you've got 1,000 Suns. They are not quite the same as the other legions, because they have direct blessings from specific gods, and then Khorne and Slaanesh would differ sufficiently as well from the rest of the Undivided legions that they could do with their own codex. There's just no benefit to releasing a Black Legion Codex. It would fragment the Undivided Codex quite badly. They would need to have things that were specific to them to make it worth it. Suddenly giving them a load of new stuff out of nowhere is not the same as giving other legions with specific sponsors, so to speak, new stuff. I don't know whether that's just a me thing, but the idea of the Death Guard having access to different war gear because they fight under the banner of Nurgle alone, that makes more sense to me than the Black Legion just going, we've got all this stuff, we've just never ever used it before. I don't know why. That's just a bias thing on my part, most likely. But yeah, I just can't see it. I can't see it for the same reason I can't see them doing a standalone Ultramarines Codex. I just don't think there's any purpose to it at all. And if we saw a release of a new Abaddon, if we saw a release of new Chaos Space Marines, well, they would work for any legion. You wouldn't have like Black Legion Chaos Space Marine models. You would just have Space Marine models. They would be applied to every Chaos Legion. So there's just no purpose behind it to me. But that is just me. That is just my opinion compared to someone else's opinion. What do you reckon? Do you think you would ever see a Black Legion Codex, or do you reckon there's just no chance of it? Do you think there is a significant difference between the different legions to actually warrant having a change in terms of what they have for codexes and so on and so forth? Or do you think they are close enough to each other that actually keeping them all together would make sense? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all of the things, and if you want, you don't have to. Don't click if you don't want to. And I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.